Welcome back to another Flashback review. I'm J77. Today's movie I'm going to be talking about is a movie that you probably seen as a kid and even still have some staying power with you as a kid, and that is Sesame Street, Follow That Bird. Now, this is a movie that I give a lot of credit for because it's very rare that a film that is aimed towards young children tries to bring up a subject without actually going over their head or be over preachy about it. In fact, this movie, so if you look at it right now, despite some of its flaws, and yes, the film is kind of dated due to the fact of the music alone, this movie had a strong message. And again, this is a film that took a lot of risk. And with the word Sesame Street, the one thing that came to mind, especially with parents that day, because this film was not a huge hit. In fact, this film bombed badly at the box office, and that's largely because parents stood away from it. Because you hear the word Sesame Street, you know what their target audience is. You're not going to shell up a lot of money to watch it where you can actually just sit home and watch it at home. As a matter of fact, a lot of people was kind of surprised that they actually decided to make a movie and put it in theaters knowing that the chances of it making money is very, very slim to none. However, this film got a lot of praises by parents and even got a lot of controversy by those in Congress because of what they choose the topic to go on. And for those who don't know, this film is about race. There's no other better way to put it. And even though they didn't throw it out there, um, if you get, as the older you get, and actually when you see this film again, you realize, wow, they really did went there. They really went with playing the race card, but most importantly, playing the family race card. And I know people like kind of confused when I'm saying it, but just hear me out here. This is a film that I consider to be one of the educational films, whether good or not good. This is a movie that I actually have a list I'm working on that put that on the top 10 educational films that I have seen and would recommend for anything else for educational purposes only. Let's go with the overall theme because it's very important. The theme is this. A bunch of birds, a female bird, I can't remember her name, she's escapes me, I'm not even going to go crazy with this, sees Big Bird, realizes Big Bird is not with his own kind, and she feels that he'd be better off with his own kind. Right there is where I'm coming at with. This is the gist of the film. This is where the vehicle of the film starts. And for a while he convinced Big Bird that he's best to be with his own kind, with the bird family. However, Big Bird going to miss the people in Sesame Street and try to make his way back, not knowing there are people who are actually trying to get him back as well. So it ends up being pretty much his Big Bird trying to go home back to Sesame Street. People want to get him back to Sesame Street, and you have this other people want him to be happy, but be happy with his own people. And this is a film that, if you sit down and actually think about it, said, wow, they went there. How dare they went there, but I'm glad they went there because this is a film that you don't just watch. It's a film that you have to have a discussion with, that parents will have to sit down and talk to their kids to have a discussion with. And during that time, it's one of those discussions that a lot of parents, for whatever reason, didn't feel too comfortable with. They didn't feel too comfortable going that direction, and they felt that children at that time wasn't really ready for this type of conversation, even though there were TV shows out there that shows interracial families. Different Strokes was one of those. You had even the Jeffersons was one of those, and now you have Sesame Street bringing this topic up. They brought it up in a very clever way, and I actually the theme and the movie itself, which was a very good movie, really did a good job of representing this. They did such a good job that I really think that parents who rejected this film because they figured it's a kids' film probably took another look at it and said, "Yeah, this is a film that I actually give them praise for," because it's very rare, especially from Sesame Street. They will actually bring out a film that doesn't talk down to children, doesn't talk down to them. This was one of the films they didn't talk down to them. In fact, they actually brought up a subject matter that deserves to have a conversation, especially during that time. And I give him all sorts of props, all sorts of respect from that. Now, it doesn't mean this film has flaws. And my God, this film does have flaws. Let's get right straight down to this. The thing that keeps this film from being a great film is the music. I did not like a single thing about the music. There was one music theme that was more depressing than actually happy, and you pretty much know what I was going at. Is when the scene that he's been captured, he's been painted blue. It's a depressing song, and I pretty much believe that Nostalgia Critic touched on this. I'm pretty sure one of those guys, one of the reviewers from Channel Awesome, touched on it, but it was a very depressing song. I'm like, my God, this is not a song that's making me happy. It's making me mad. It's making me sad, but it did this job. But the music was left little to be desired for. And I kind of think they would have served this film better if they just have it just as a family film and not a musical. And that was the thing that killed me. You didn't need to make this movie a musical because that hurt the rating badly. The film is a little dated, but then again, it's an 80s film. It wasn't really the best cinematography that you probably ever had, but for what worked, it worked. The characters were loving characters. I love seeing them on the big screen. Big Bird, which amazing enough has not one but two, but three films under his belt. One that made a feature film, and the other two was a PBS special. And each one of them was actually pretty good. And I am planning to review them in the near future. Probably not this season, but next season, because I do have other things planned, and I don't want to make this a Sesame Street marathon. But nevertheless, the person who played Big Bird, excellent. The characters in this, that was in this movie, excellent. I really did enjoy this film. And for a film, I wouldn't mind sitting down with my son and daughter or nieces and nephews and not only watch them with them, but actually have a very serious discussion, because this is a film that warrants that type of talk. Depending on what your views are, it's definitely something worth talking about, because to this day, this conversation still goes up. And I kind of ironic that this conversation still goes up, because now more than ever, we have people with interracial relationships, and that argument saying, well, black children should be raised by black families, and white children should be raised by white family. You never hear about what about those who have whose families are mixed. You don't hear that, largely because it's a dumb kind of conversation, at least by my opinion. But there are still people who feel this way, and this film brought that out there. This film was very daring, more daring than I think people give it credit for doing what they did. Again, this is a film that I respect, because it's not only a family film, but it's a film that doesn't talk down to it. There's a conversation, there's a theme that's going on, and yet, despite all the shenanigans in between, that theme sets everything out for what we're seeing here. Again, my real beef is the music. It's not a good musical. If you just look at it from musical alone, you're just going to be pulling your hair out. I didn't look at the musical alone. I look at the overall picture here, and for the most part, I did enjoy this film, and I recommend this as a parent choice for those who want to sit their preteen down and actually have a serious conversation regarding to this topic. It's definitely one of those films that is not just a watchable film. It's a film that definitely you want to talk to your young ones about, because it is something that unfortunately we're still dealing with today in terms of people's feelings, or closed-minded feelings towards interracial marriages, interracial children, and whether or not children are better off being raised by their own kind. This film definitely does that. This is not, as usual, not for everybody. Some parents don't want to have that conversation for whatever reason. Hey, that's your prerogative. I understand. I'm just calling it like it is. It's a film that is not just a film you watch and toss to the side. This is a film you watch, but you also have the conversation, because I got news for you. Your children will start asking questions, and this is the kind of film you got to be prepared to ask the questions. On a scale of 1 to 4, this film gets a 3 stars. It is a good film. Unfortunately, the music is really the only beef, but is a very huge chunk of it. And like I said, if you can get through the musical note that is that for this film, you'll be fine. This film is definitely good. And that's pretty much it. What do you think about this movie? Did you like it? Didn't like it? Let me know in the comment section. Until next time, it's J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon.